Well, it's not possible to measure everything. However, we can approach some measures, some estimates to different type of impacts. I mean, we have the tangible impacts, which are quite easily measurable in economics, like impact studies. And impact studies, for instance, for every 10 euros invested in a cultural event, which would be the total amount of euros for the society. This would be a pure financial approach in a cultural event. And then we will have another approach, which is the well-being generated by the cultural event. And this also can be measured economically. I mean, it's not very exact in the sense that it is not pure mathematics, but we can have approach. For instance, I'll give you, by analogy, an example with environment. Which will be the improvement in well-being for a city of a program of reducing pollution? I mean, there's a tangible part of it, which is that you have less pollution, but there's also a very strong intangible, which is the well-being of the population of the city that has very much improved as a result of decreasing pollution. The same happens with culture. I mean, you have the tangible part of it, and then you have a very big intangible, that its influence on education and its influence in social cohesion or social integration or different type of societal impacts as a result of the project. Can this be measured in economical terms? Of course it can. It's not exact, but you can approach. I'll give an example, okay? Let's assume that there's are you from Finland? No, okay, don't worry. Let's think that there's a heritage, a piece of, very unique piece of cultural heritage that has to be preserved. And it is, let's say that it is linked to the prehistory of Europe. So from the European point of view, it's unique, absolutely unique, okay? But it's not a tourist destination. But from the historical point of view, it is unique and has to be preserved. So we decide to set up a foundation. And the question is, how much money should each person donate to the foundation in order to preserve that very unique piece of heritage for the European culture? And the answer is, can we calculate this? Is it possible to get to know how much should each person donate to the foundation? And the answer is yes. You perform the survey. Some that would be willing to visit the heritage, the piece of heritage, would say, yes, I would like to visit it, and I will be aiming to pay 10 euros, let's say. Others would say, well, I live far away from there, and perhaps I wouldn't be willing to do tourism there, but as it is a really unique European piece of heritage, for the fact that it is there and I appreciate it, I would be willing to pay 7, although I'm not going to visit it. Or even they would think, well, perhaps it won't benefit me, but it will benefit my children. So I would be willing to donate 5 euros. So at the end, you have information of the willingness to pay, of how much money each of the inhabitants will be willing to give to the foundation to preserve that piece of heritage. So you have the valuation, the economic valuation of non-market driven goods well-being for the society. So you can evaluate it from the economic point of view. It's not pure mathematics, but you need it, because if you need to set up the foundation, you need to get to know how much money you're going to put into it to preserve the piece of heritage, for instance. And you need to evaluate, because this evaluation mechanism, in this case, you need it for the management of the project. Because if you want to preserve that really unique piece of heritage, and you don't know how to calculate how much money you need to preserve it and how much money donors would be aiming to give to the foundation to preserve it, I mean, that's a violation. So you need for the functioning of cultural economics. As easy as this. So somehow you can approach different impacts, not only the pure financial ones, but also the non-financial ones which have economic value.